Hi, this is Josh Mandeville with Qubit Networks. This is our October 2022 Qubit Tech Talk. This month is Cybersecurity Month, so we thought we'd talk to Checkpoint, and we have with us this month David Wheeler, the Illinois Security Engineering Manager. Hey, David, how you doing?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great. So a lot of times we start these things off by asking our guests how they got to where they are. You're this Illinois Security Engineering Manager. I'm imagining there's quite a path to that title.
Oh, sure. No, there absolutely is. A lot of it, came from experience over the years, at organizations prior to Checkpoint. But a lot of it did come through, actual sweat and tears working internally at Checkpoint. Kind of working my way up from the pre-sales side of the organization, feet on the street, individual contributor, working with different sales reps from all sorts of account size, anywhere from SMB all the way up to the enterprise grade types of accounts. Um, and really just showing technical prowess, showing dedication, showing the ability to understand and comprehend the security market. Building this past, and it led me to this position.
Cool. How long have you been with Checkpoint?
Sure. So I've been with Checkpoint going on 11 years at this point.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh
So
yeah,
you know
absolutely.
where all the bodies are buried.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely. It's been
awesome.
it's been an incredible run though. Just seeing
That's
the
awesome.
organization grow over the last decade, it's phenomenal with the innovation that we've had since I've came on board.
Yeah, well, and with that, since this is Cybersecurity Month, obviously everyone kind of knows that email is a vulnerability, and you guys recently, or I guess more than just recently, but you guys purchased Avanon, which is now called Checkpoint Harmony Email and Collaboration.
Right.
What are some of the general risks that you see associated with email? I mean, we have the obvious, attachments and stuff like that, but what else do you guys see as a risk?
Yeah, sure. So according to our Checkpoint research, globally, 86% of attacks with organizations start through email. That number is earth-shattering. 86%. I mean, think about that. The majority of the interaction in your organization, which goes through email in many cases, is also the number one vector. So at the same time, it's not surprising. It's a tool set
No,
that organizations are required to use. Therefore, from the malicious actor perspective, they know that this is a really, really good target. So, going beyond the obvious stuff like, malicious attachments, which, the concept always comes up. You clicked on what? When some of these,
right,
threats come through email. And these
right,
attachments, typically it's going to be things like PDF files, Excel files, anything that really potentially could have active content where if they were to open these files, nasty things could happen. It could be the entry point for a ransomware attack. It could be an entry point for some other kind of lateral movement, data loss, and so on. But email security goes far beyond just attachments. The
right.
content of emails, the concept of things like business email compromise, somebody getting into the organization, sending emails on behalf of other executives within that organization, to other internal folks of the organization. You hear stories time and time again about somebody got tricked into doing a wire transfer. They thought it was their CEO or their
Yeah,
their CIO asking for money to be sent out. So
we
you see a
we
lot of things.
sorry, we say we actually had some stuff like that where the t someone attempted. It wasn't even our domain name, but they got close to it, and someone
Yeah.
received an email that looked like our CEO asking to buy gift cards.
Oh
Luckily, we
yeah.
caught it and everything, but still, it was just like, wow, that was really good.
Oh, you see things that are just unbelievable, when it comes to, kind of the guts of some of these people. I remember it's been a few years now, but I was working with an organization and they do a lot of billing, finance and things like that. So they have kind of their own portal webpage and everything. Somebody did the same kind of thing. It was almost like a typo squat email where it was very similar to their organization. They stood up a webpage that looked almost identical to the real company. It had a portal and everything, and they were able to harvest information, financial information, because of that. So yeah, and that was more of an external attack against an organization's
Right.
customers. You
Let
see that
alone
on
an
the
internal.
internal side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, since the attacks have evolved, I mean, the days of legacy email security gateways, I mean, those are going away. I mean, kind of. They have to, right?
Well, they have to either go away or they need to get with the times. If we talk about legacy email security gateways, those are from a different time. They were from a much simpler time if you really think about it. Well, unless you're an exchange administrator, I suppose, but having email on-prem, being able to secure that email, it kind of went back to the concept of everybody on the inside of your organization is safe. Everybody on the outside should not be trusted. Kind of the early days of the zero trust model, if you will. But as such, secure email gateways, they are not built in a way to handle modern email. SaaS-based email, things such as O365 and Google email. In many cases, you're actually, by using these legacy email solutions like the Proofpoints, the Mimecasts of the world, and so on, you're actually lessening your security when it comes to a SaaS-based email security model, because based on the way the architecture works with MX records, you have to turn off the native security controls in Microsoft and Google. Now, the
Right.
risk to that, and of course, the great answer would be, well, okay, great, my email security gateway is going to do that for you, but it misses things. Email security gateways were developed in a time when the analysis was very much static based, signature based
Right.
analysis.
Signature based.
Things
Right.
That's exactly it. And in today's fifth generation of attacks, where there's these polymorphic threats that are out there, or it doesn't take much to go out and buy yourself a 0-day
I was
that
just
you
say
can
there's
launch and
ransomware.
send.
Ransomware is a service now. I mean,
Absolutely. They're just taking advantage of, that static analysis. But sadly, it gets even worse than that with secure email gateways. In many cases, you're having to do MX record manipulation, which by doing so, if you use any kind of MX lookup tool, and there's hundreds of them out there on the internet, they're free. You can look and see who somebody is using for their email security gateway. It'll flat out say Proofpoint there in many cases. And one thing, one of the concepts when it comes to security of organizations in general is, focusing on really just hiding, anonymizing a lot of this information so that you're not disclosing this to the outside world. So you're not basically saying, hey, if you want to attack me, come find a vulnerability in Proofpoint. You'll walk right on through the door. Now,
right.
expanding off of that, and I apologize if this is a bit of an extended response, but
But no, this is great.
this one gets me on my soapbox because it's so sad how a lot of these different
It
older email
should.
security tools are working. When it comes to O365 and the Google Suite as well, if you were to enable a secure email gateway or MX, manipulation, they require you to turn off the built-in security that's part of Gmail and Microsoft.
I've seen
And the
that.
reason is, if you did not do that, um, essentially what ends up happening is you're messing with the authentication, the email authentication, verification, and reputation engines that are associated with Microsoft and Google. Things like Sender Policy Framework, Domain Key,
Right.
DKIM, and so on. So what ends up happening is, if you don't turn off the Microsoft or Google's protection, your secure email gateway is seen as an outsider. It's seen as a spoofing attack on your email server. Google and Microsoft would just start dropping the traffic left and right. So you have to turn it off. Okay, great. Let's say your tool, let's say you have the security controls built in, which again, the older ones don't, but let's say they did. Let's say it's a perfect world as far as that goes. Fine. But then you run into yet another issue. Um, there The configuration itself associated in many cases with Microsoft and Google by default does also have the ability to, where a user from an outside perspective could bypass the secure email gateway by sending an email directly to the root admin address or the root domain address. So, John at customerabc.com, let's say that's their external address. There's very likely a John at customerabc.com on Microsoft.com,
Right. I would
internal
say they have
address to
that
that.
on Microsoft part. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. That'll go completely around the MX record manipulation, and now you're right in. So to kind of
Without the Microsoft's protection turned on.
without the Microsoft protection turned on. That's exactly it. So Now your email secure gateway that's supposed to provide extra security, it's actually weakening your security to the point it kind of might make more sense just not to turn on the secure email gateway. One last thought on that. It really, having to turn off the built-in native controls for Microsoft and Google just to make your, secure email gateway work, it actually goes against the basic security premise of defense in depth. Yeah, you
Right.
should have
Exactly.
multiple layers of protection. If you turn on
Exactly.
a secure email gateway, you've lost the majority of the layers of your protection. So all you need to do is, get past that proof point box. Boom,
And
right in the door.
and honestly, Microsoft and Google are pretty good at spam. Just
Yeah,
like categorizing spam by itself. I mean, they're pretty good at that. Like, so turning that off is just mind-boggling to me.
yeah, no, exactly, exactly. If anything, it's just going to eliminate a lot of the noise that potentially would make its way up to your email, administration team.
Exactly.
Block the noise at the door. Just focus on inspecting the legitimate or what potentially could be the legitimate traffic.
So I know that Harmony or Checkpoint's Harmony email and collaboration is API based. I guess I would call
Yes.
that next generation. So with Google and Microsoft in particular, because they're the big SaaS products in town,
Yeah.
uh, the API based. How does that differ? I mean, obviously it's different, but like, how does that differ from other APIs? I mean, especially security gateway legacy stuff. It obviously is different, but like, how is that? How does that work?
No, well said, well said. So yeah, like you said, the legacy secure email gateway stuff that's all MX record manipulation. It's all handling it on the outside before it actually really gets to the email environment. So, but nowadays there are a lot of API based email security solutions, next gen email security, if you will. And the way that works, in many cases, a lot of the email providers do have tie-ins with the intention of being able to use their email security solutions and whatnot. Now, the problem is all next-gen email security through API is not the same. The majority of the API-based email security solutions that are out there, there is a significant delay before they come into play where they can actually remediate or revoke an email from a user's inbox. It could be anywhere from a couple seconds up to, I've seen as far as almost 2 minutes. And
So
the
explain that. So like the email hits the inbox and it stays there before it's scanned.
That's exactly it. It's a reactive scan rather than a proactive scan. So
So it's not
the
scanning
email goes
before.
through the chain, hits the inbox, API kicks in to inspect it. If it's bad, let's move this to junk or spam or whatever your email policy is. But the problem is it's been in the user's inbox potentially up to 2 minutes. Think
And
about if you had an
if people are like
enticing email.
me,
Yeah.
if I'm sitting there and I'm like looking at it and I see something up, I open it.
Oh, no, same here. Sometimes you're sitting there trying to get your emails knocked out and stuff. You're just kind of in the zone, if you will. Yeah, you're just going
Exactly.
through click, click, click. What do I have to do? What do I need to flag for later? It's real easy to slip stuff in the door like that, or combine it with email business or business email compromise. Did it look like a legitimate email from your boss? You're probably
Right.
going to click on that. Or, Josh, let's say your boss sent you something. Hey, we have a big project coming up with, this organization. Can you read through the statement of work or something? Are you even going to question it? No, you're going to
No,
open it
right.
up. Right,
Yeah.
right. So having a reactive approach on the API side, it's just broken. That is not the way that threat prevention, and that's the key, prevention here should work. Block the garbage at the door before it gets to your users. It's a very simple concept to understand.
And that's how the Harmony email and collaboration works.
So, no, actually, we have a little bit of a twist to that. So,
Okay.
with Harmony Email and Collaboration, we are also a next-gen email security solution. However, we have a different twist when it comes to our API. In fact, we have a patented API where we are in line immediately after the Microsoft or Google security preventions and before the email reaches the user's inbox.
Perfect.
So it's the best of both worlds. You still have all of that protection that come in place with your native security controls through Microsoft or Google. Then you can hit Harmony Email and Collaboration for the advanced threat prevention, phishing prevention, DLP type of technology, and have that defense in depth that's absolutely essential in the
I,
security
I
industry.
I think
And
there's
then
impersonation defense too in there, isn't there, or something like that?
so there is, which, actually, Josh, I'm glad you brought that up because that goes down a whole nother concept that legacy security email providers don't even really touch on without hodgepodge kind of hacked together add-ons, and that's internal email
Internal to
prevention.
internal. Right.
That is exactly it. You're not going to get internal to internal with the secure email gateway. You may get it with some of the other next gen API vendors, but it's not going to be in real time. It's going to be more reactive. With Harmony email and collaboration, we have inbound and internal email protection, all managed by the same place. Now, reason why I'm kind of mentioning that at this point, if we start talking about impersonation attacks and so on, a lot of these secure email gateways, or even some of the other next gen API vendors, they're really only interested in the interaction with external traffic. Emails coming in, emails going out to the organization, not the emails that are being sent side to side, or the lateral, or the east west, if you will, to throw it in
Right.
network terms. Right. So what ends up happening, even if you have a pretty savvy external email gateway that's, good at figuring out, kind of building its own data dictionary to kind of work on a machine learning perspective, if you will, to be able to identify these attacks, you're basing your knowledge or your artificial intelligence on a, potential half of the traffic, maybe even more. Maybe the person sends more emails internally. So from a Harmony email and collaboration standpoint, we're building kind of the big data, some trends and whatnot, based off of emails that are sent not only externally, but also internally. There's a large list of things that we're looking at, but things like common names that are used, between two people in an organization, nicknames,
That's cool.
information associated with different conversations, different terms that are common, and so on. So what ends up happening is we have a much larger sample set for our machine learning to function off of, which makes it much more powerful, much more accurate, and really kind of helps against these internal compromise-based attacks.
That's awesome. I'm in,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't just protect email. It's also well, because we have Qubit uses it, and when we just started turning on SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, we just turned on all of that too. So we're not just
Yeah.
protecting our email; we're
Yep.
protecting all of those communication vectors and our file sharing through our SaaS environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that in many cases, that's a unique capability with Harmony email and collaboration. A lot of these other solutions out there, they are just to secure email. Whether it's on-prem email, SaaS-based email, or so on. They don't necessarily look at a lot of these third-party collaboration apps. Now, think about things like multi-factor authentication. Um, a lot of these third-party solutions, when it comes to SaaS applications, they're using email as part of that authentication process. What if your email account got compromised? Think of, business email compromised once again. Now, potentially, they have access to the OneDrives, the Google Drives, the Teams of the world, and so on. And they could, do things on behalf of the user, whether it's sending files, compromising, pulling down information, and so on. So Harmony email and collaboration's approach to that is to extend beyond just the email security portion, to also look past that and look at these different third-party SaaS applications or collaboration applications to get even a larger piece of the story of what's going on in the environment and prevent it if necessary.
So I did have a question.
Sure.
For us, it took about, I don't know, 5 minutes to get the email collaboration piece working with our Office 365 environment.
Yeah.
It probably took another 5 minutes just because I wanted to read more on the OneDrive and SharePoint stuff. Is that typical? Because it seemed really easy.
It almost seems too easy, doesn't it? Like it
It
almost makes you
really
think you
did.
missed something. Right. Right.
I
No,
honestly was like, this can't be working.
it's
Eh,
just that simple. So, one thing that Checkpoint, or there's a bunch of things that Checkpoint preaches when it comes to securing your environment. Visibility, usability, and other things as well. That usability also does tie into configuration. If configuration is complex, you're going to screw it up. No matter if
Right.
you have the best intentions or not, you're probably going to miss something. So keep it simple. Keep the deployment simple. It's all API based. All you're having to do is basically authenticate, provide the permissions, and then from there, you're on to setting your policy, which that's not too
Yeah.
difficult easily. It's click of a couple buttons. So
And
yeah, that
Checkpoint
5 minutes.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
Checkpoint
Josh.
and Microsoft seemed to like really work together because the mail flow rules, all that was just done.
It's
And I was like,
amazing, isn't it? It's
yeah,
amazing.
yes.
It's almost like it was built to be that way. You know, makes
Right.
you think. Makes you think.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. They did a really good job engineering it, that's for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, 5 minute deployment time is pretty standard. What I like to tell organizations when I'm talking to them, yeah, you can get it set up in 5 minutes. If you really want to have kind of a tweak policy, yeah, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, there's not much to it to get it set up. But the defense in depth that's associated with the internal Harmony email and collaboration, things like 0-day prevention, phishing
Right.
based protection, business, email account compromise, malware prevention, URL rewrite, sanitation, inspection on top of all that. It's
Yeah, you
amazing.
can't beat it.
It's so amazing. You can't beat that.
No, and we've come we really love the reports that it gives us every month or weekly now. Oh, we started doing it weekly, but
Yeah.
we love those reports because it's just amazing to see how many attempts there were and how many stops that Checkpoint
Yeah.
did. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
shocking.
It's absolutely shocking, which, you think that's shocking. So typically when we are positioning Harmony email and collaboration, we recommend that organizations just try it in their environment. It's low risk. You can set it up in a detect only mode at first if you want. Of course, prevention's the way to go, but I get it. You want to see what, you don't want to kick the tires before you go out and buy the car.
I
Makes
would say we
perfect
can do a
sense.
trial, right? A proof of concept. No
Oh,
problem.
absolutely. You can do a proof of concept trial. And in fact, in that proof of concept, I highly recommend leaving your existing email security solution in place, whether it's the native controls, through your email security, your email provider, or, again, like a, Mimecast, Proofpoint or whatnot. What's incredibly interesting there is to see how much stuff we catch that slipped through them. So if you think about it, if we're behind like a Mimecast or Proofpoint from an MX record standpoint, we're still in that API line. We're still going to see that traffic that made it past them. If you have
Right.
Microsoft or the native Google controls built in, we're past that as well. You're going to see everything that made it past them. I'll pretty much guarantee you will be in awe of the amount of garbage that slips through your actual perimeter defenses today.
Yep.
It's absolutely concerning how much actually slips through there, to the
It
point,
really is.
been involved in many, many, many POCs having to do with Harmony and email and collaboration. I've never had one where we haven't found something that was just phenomenal that made its way through there. Really makes you scratch your head. What are those other providers actually doing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
exactly.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add for this or
Um, there just kind of a
a
couple
wrap?
things just to kind of keep in mind. When you are out there looking for your email security provider or an email security solution, the easy answer would be come to Checkpoint, look at Harmony Email and Collaboration, and don't look any further. But I get it. Do your due diligence. Research, does that solution need you to disable the built-in security controls that
That's
Microsoft or Google have? Again, defense in depth. Keep that in mind. You're probably paying for it to begin with. Why should you have to turn it off?
right.
Um, Next step, does your configuration allow attackers to bypass your gateway? So your email secure gateway. So as the example I mentioned earlier, let's say you have, a secure email gateway in place. Chances are there's a domain admin mailbox or access that you can still get, which is going to go around that email secure gateway. So another important one to ask. Next one, and this one is vital for business email compromise. Can you block email attacks before they reach your inbox? And can you inspect internal based emails? You
Right.
have to block the stuff at the beginning before it gets to the email box. If it got to the user's email box, you might as well call it done. You've been
Right.
at that point. You
And
got to block it before it gets there. And that same concept needs to apply to both ingress emails coming from the outside world, as well as those internal lateral, east-west emails,
I was gonna say we need
if you will.
need real zero trust. Like don't trust your person in the cubicle next to you, you know. I mean, you can trust them, but don't trust their email.
That is exactly it. And I guess kind of
Yeah.
the final takeaway there, again, as I mentioned very early on, these legacy dinosaurs, if you will, when it comes to email security. And again, just to name drop the proof points and the Mimecast of the world, and there's a list that goes on and on there. They were never intended to be put in front of SaaS-based email security solutions.
No, right.
They
Like you
were
said,
not built that way. It's,
they were
I know
good for
some
back in the day.
they were good for back in the day, and I see some movement on their end where they're trying to modernize and whatnot. The thing is, I mean, they're going to be like a lot of the other next gen email security providers, where their API hits after it hits the inbox.
Right.
Checkpoint, again, we own the patent on that. It's going to come to us first. We're
That's
going to
awesome.
block it before it gets to the user. In the end, keeping your organization far more secure from the unknown.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. This is great especially for Cybersecurity Month.
Yes. No,
A lot of
I definitely appreciate the chance to speak to you today and
yeah,
help educate the audience.
yeah. And if anybody has any questions about Checkpoint, Harmony, email, and collaboration, get in touch with Qubit. We'll get you in touch with smart guys like David here, and we'll get a proof of concept going and show you exactly what your solution is missing or what you would like to see.
Well said.
Thank you, everyone, and everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you.